Voice of Indonesia. VOR.
Well, listeners, the world is going to celebrate the 12th edition of the World Radio Day on February 13, 2023. And today we are with Miss Olga Lisogor, the Deputy Editor-in-Chief and also the Director of Foreign Language News Production of Sputnik. Hello, Mrs. Olga.
Hello.
How are you?
Pleasure to be with you today. Great.
Okay, I would like to say Happy International or say World Radio Day.
Congratulations to you as well.
Congratulations to you too. Okay, Miss Olga, as I mentioned before, that today, February 13, is the 12th edition of the World Radio Day. And does it have a very, say, special meaning for the Sputnik?
Well, of course, because Sputnik is a huge media holding and radio is a big part of it. And we see radio is one of the main ways of access to information in the world. And not only because of the people's habits, because many people are used to listen to the radio, of course. But there are still many places in the world where radio is the only way to receive the information because they don't have still the access to internet or television. So we see radio as a really good field for the experts and for the decision makers to express themselves and for us to spread the information. And our objective, like today and every day, is to control that this information is verified, fast, accurate, and Sputnik transmits in more than in almost 40 languages, and we have more than 20 regional offices and dozens of correspondents all over the world, and we all work hard to earn this credibility of the listeners. So, and we, like, each of us has holiday today, we celebrate the Day of Radio, of course.
Yes, Ms. Olga, as you mentioned before that there are 40 languages that the Sputnik Radio has in their broadcast. Is there any Indonesian languages for that?
Yes, we're planning one. Yes, hopefully this year we will open our regional office in Indonesia. So we're looking forward for that.
You are looking forward for that to open your, languages services, Indonesian languages services.
Yes, Indonesian. Yes.
Hopefully.
There will be one more.
Okay, I hope so. Okay, Ms. Olga, again, do you have a very special events to celebrate this year World Day, Radio Days?
Yes, sure we do. One of the main objectives of our work is to improve the international cooperation between the radio broadcasters. And we work with many radio stations all over the world, like with yours radio station. And we have many joint programs, projects. And on the 7th of February, we had one special event with the broadcasters from Africa, like media managers from Moscow and from some African countries. They joined video conference and discussed many important things like future of radio industry, podcasts, streaming, social media, and new creative radio formats. So it was very useful for everybody, all the participants, I think.
Mm-hmm. And what about in the headquarters? Is there any events for the staffs in the in the headquarters?
Well, every worker can celebrate it like he wants, in the way he wants.
Okay. So, as we know that UNESCO highlights the independent radio as a pillar for complete prevention and peace building for this year theme, radio and peace. So, how do you assess the role of radio in preventing conflict?
Well, it's not a secret that nowadays the media, including radio, if they fall into the wrong hands, they can be used like a very dangerous weapon. And we know such cases like in Rwanda in 90s when the radio actually was the reason of genocide, provoked genocide. And now there are many media and radio stations and programs that use this media field to spread disinformation, to impose the only point of view, to spread fakes. Actually, we all know such cases. So from our side, our aim, our purpose, objective is to fight with that, with the accurate, fast, verified, very verified information, and with the different opinions about everything, and with the general quality of our broadcasting.
Yeah, as you mentioned that if radio falls to the wrong hands, it will be a dangerous weapon. So, how do you, Sputnik play its role to, in its programs to just say, as a mainstream media, to avoid fake or just say to fight fake and hoax information?
Well, there is one important rule for every journalist, that the best source of information is like first-hand information, right?
Yeah.
That means that every time it's better to have the information from the place where something is going on. And the situation when a lot of countries and a lot of media receive information about what's going on in Russia from Western mainstream media, well, I think that it can be counted like very professional way of journalism. And what we want to do, we just want to give people another side, another point of view, alternative point of view, because they don't have it. They have only one side. And then people can make their own conclusions, including Indonesia. How can people decide what is going on if they know only one side of the matter?
So
So that's what we do. We just read the untold.
So that's our task, our job, our responsibilities as a mainstream media, including Radio Republic Indonesia, Voice of Indonesia, and Sputnik's radio. Do you agree with me, Mrs. Olga?
Yes, sure. It's a great responsibility. You're right.
Okay. Yes. Radio stations should serve diverse communities, as you mentioned. That it is not only one community, one group, but there are many communities around the world. Even in Russia itself, we have here in Indonesia more than 250 tribes, groups of culture in Indonesia, and it is offering a wide variety of programs. That's what we have to do. And viewpoints and also content and also reflect the diversity of our audience in their organization and operations. Thus, in your opinion, how a professional radio station should maintain its impartiality? I give stress here, impartiality, since its budget is from the government, because we know that there are many radios around the world that their budget, it comes from the government, but they have to be professional and impartial.
Well, we cannot deny, you cannot deny that each and every media has its own editorial policy, no matter if it's state-funded or privately owned. But it's more about the understanding of the audience, of the interests of the audience, and about giving the people right of making decisions, as I told. Um, so more dangerous, I think, that the source of budget is this one hand information that people receive from such media, right?
Yeah.
And but that's also depends on the editorial policy, and ours is not like that.
So, so that's why we have we have professionals in our management. We have a standard of journalistic while we are delivering the information to the people, to our listeners out there, right?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Again, Miss Olga, I think, yeah, we agree to say that radio remains, up to this time, I believe that, the most widely consumed medium compared to other kind of media. And its unique ability to reach out the widest audience means radio can shape a socialist experience of diversity and stand as an arena for all voices to speak out. So we give the same chance, the same opportunity to deliver their opinion, be represented and be heard. They have the same rights for that. So what does a radio station have to do, in your opinion, to be engaged with the communities or their listeners?
Well, as I told, the diversity and the variety of voices are among our fundamentals, I would say. So we analyze our audience in every country, because we have radio stations in different languages in different countries, and each audience has its own interests. But what we try to do is to have all the variety of programs that you can imagine to satisfy every listener.
Yeah.
So in our radio schedule, you can find everything from news and analysis to the programs about culture and sport, talk shows, even music sometimes, but mostly serious content, obviously.
Yeah.
And yes, and our anchors are really respected and well-known people in their countries, and we invite the guests that are really respected experts in their areas. So I think that it's the reason why the number of our listeners and followers is increasing, despite of many limits that we have now in the world.
Okay. Can you share with us here in Jakarta that how do you make your audience research so you find out you can fulfill the needs of your listeners on information? And how many times a year, or
Well,
how many times in a say 5 years or any decade you make audience research?
well, we try to react on the situation, and not once in 5 years, but almost every week, every day. We follow social media to see the reaction of people on the issues that are going on the problems, like international problems or local ones, because for some countries, local problems are much more important than what's going on um, in the international field. But there are others that are more interested in international cooperation and so on. So we try to follow their interests and to give them information that they need, that they want to hear and to see. And when we see that there is interest in some subject, we try to tell about that from different sides. So we invite different guests, different experts, ask them to argue, so people can see it from different perspectives.
Oh, this is great. And yes, Mrs. Olga, before we come to the end of this conversation or discussion, like, is there anything you want to say to the listeners of radio around the world on this occasion of the World Radio Day? Especially if I wish you to also send your own message, from the Sputnik Radio about the theme of the World Radio Day this year, radio and peace. How could we build peace from a radio? Miss Olga.
Well, I would like to call our listeners, our audience, to be active in searching for the diversity and balanced information that is extremely important nowadays. And in looking for the both sides of every issue that occurs, and be active in listening different opinions that we for sure trying to give to them, and of course for making their own conclusions and not to follow somebody else's conclusions. I think that's.
I haven't found your short message about the peace, the word peace.
Well, of course, everybody in the world is interested in peace, and well, what we can do is to try to help to avoid media wars. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Miss Olga. This is a very interesting conversation, I think.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank
Once
you.
again, congratulations, happy World Radio Days.
Happy World Radio Day. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, listeners, that was my very interesting conversation with Ms. Olga Lisogor, the Deputy Editor-in-Chief and also the Director of Foreign Language News Production of Sputnik Radio, about the World Radio Days, which take the themes radio and peace. Hope that from this conversation, from now on, there is no war, but peace. I'm Daulat Pane. See you next time.
Voice of Indonesia. VOR.